Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Diablo Digest, the show where I take Diablo 3 news and various other ingredients and I basically give it back to you and make it sound interesting. Supposedly. That's the point anyway. So today I'm doing things a little bit differently. Typically during Diablo Digest, what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll record and just kind of talk about things that that have been going on in Diablo, and then I'll just record some video footage to put over the top of it. Today, I'm actually playing while I'm recording, so it might be a little bit odd. Might not be as coherent because I'm focusing on two things at once, but there's a kind of a point to this. As I want to show off a couple of things. I'm in the 2.0.1 PTR right now, okay? And I want you to keep in mind that anything I talk about today in regards to Diablo, in regards to Reaper of Souls, does not include anything as far as Reaper of Souls is concerned. This is all pretty much according to the beta PTR right now because I don't have any experience with the beta. I don't have any experience with Reaper, so anything that has changed in Reaper I won't know about, unfortunately. I still do not have a key. That's most unfortunate. Hey look, I finally died. So, the first thing I want to talk about, and the whole point of why I'm playing right now, is to talk about a subject that I've already kind of touched a little bit upon, and that is kind of where the difficulty of the game is going and the whole revive at corpse thing. Granted, the checkpoint of where I am right now is really close, so having a revive at corpse at this point isn't going to be hugely different from anything else. The hammer guy is putting it on me, isn't he? But if I were further along, that would be, and I've done this a few times while I've been testing some things out here, I could just pretty much keep reviving, keep coming back, and it just doesn't feel right. I'm going to just say that again. It doesn't feel right. I don't think the reviving at the corpse, it's just, you know, sure, it's good to reward good play, and I agree with that. But if you discount death entirely, then it becomes meaningless, really. You just sit there and you just keep reviving until you win. Hey, look, I won. It wasn't really a challenge. You know, I just had to keep reviving. That's fun, right? Well, no. Now, there are ways to do it while keeping that mentality of rewarding good gameplay. Giving some kind of reward for staying alive. Bonuses to something. Nephalem Valor, I think, might be a good place that this could go. I mean, Nephalem Valor is not currently in the game, not in the beta, not in the PTR, but what if Nephalem Valor made a return? And what if Nephalem Valor lost on death, right? Because before, I don't believe you lost it on death. I'd have to double check that. Please forgive me that I don't have that information in front of me, and since I'm currently playing live while recording for you, I couldn't just go double check and stop recording. I guess I could, but let's just say I'm going to avoid that for now, for the sake of ease for me. So what if that happened, right? What if you got some kind of bonus that you stayed alive, or maybe for killing a certain number of enemies, and maybe that number capped out at some point because, you know, then it wouldn't be really fair, right? Because if it was unlimited, then you could just go and kill a whole bunch of low-level monsters and come back, right? Maybe not low level because everything scales to your level, but earlier acts, because let's face it, earlier acts are typically a little easier. Like here I am in Act 4, right? This is honestly one of the hardest areas in the game just because of the monsters that you encounter and what they can do. It's not about the monster level, it's all about the abilities that the monsters have. So, having some kind of penalty, but not really a penalty, right? So you're getting a bonus, but you lose the bonus if you die. That would be enough of a quote-unquote penalty, I think, that might make it more interesting. If they decide to keep this whole revive on corpse thing. I just don't like the feel of that. I really... Torchlight 2 did a system that I thought was very well done, and it basically increased the cost of going back to where you were. So in Torchlight 2, if you died, you could revive back at town for free, right? That was kind of like the gimme. It's like, okay, you died, you can still keep playing the game, just go back to town. This is unless you created a hardcore character in which you died permanently. So it's like, okay, you can go back to town. It's not going to cost you anything. Okay, great. I can do that. But it's a long walk. Well, then there's a second option, Revive at Checkpoint, kind of like Diablo 3 gives you. The Revive at Checkpoint was a very nominal cost. In fact, it was so low that it practically wasn't a cost. But for early game, for example, say you were new at the game, and if you died early for whatever reason, it would probably be the option you might want to pick at first. And then as you go forward, you can start using the Revive at Checkpoint. Now, Torchlight 2 did offer a Revive at Corpse option. I don't know if it was a Revive at Corpse, actually. I think it was more of a revive in the current zone you're in, which was usually not that far from where your corpse was. But that option usually got more expensive. And you were either paying with money, experience, or something like that. Now, I don't think taking away experience in Diablo 3 is really going to work. For one, getting up to level 60, there's really nothing to take away. What are you going to do? De-level the character? I just don't think that's great. And quite honestly, since monster scaling is in the game, monsters scale to your level, taking away experience is really not a big deal, because the whole point of taking away experience in, say, Diablo 2 and in Torchlight is that the monsters are kind of leveled per the zone you're in, right? So you go to Act 1, the monsters are usually, the beginning monsters are going to be level 1 to 7 or something like that, right? With this system, the monsters are always going to be your level, so you don't have that. Taking away experience really is pointless now because of that. So something else. Someone mentioned that with Reaper of Souls, if you're in adventure mode, maybe taking away the blood shards, since those are your gambling currency, for reviving at the corpse. I mean, that's a bonus you've earned from doing events. And reviving at checkpoint really isn't that far. Now, the downside to this discussion is that I have no idea how Nephalem Rifts really work in regards to death. I'm stuck in a wall. So, if you die in a Nephalem Rift, if you didn't have Revive at Corpse, would you lose the Rift? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really gone and checked any streamers that are really doing it, and I don't know how many people have intentionally tried to die to see what they're running across, to see how that would work. It's something that if I get the beta, I would definitely try. I'd want to know. So anyway, that's the first part. The second part here is, if you've watched my followers video, you know that followers in the game have gotten a massive boost at this point. And that's good. That's very good, actually. Followers, for a lot of people, were just a walking stat stick. You got a percentage of their stats. You got a percentage of their magic find, like a very low percentage, but it was there. The only follower that I think people really cared about was the Scoundrel, because you could basically equip him with a frozen weapon, something with cold damage, and then you would just have him use multi-shot and freeze everything, right? Well, the buffs have been good, but there's something I've been concerned about, and I've mentioned this, I think I've mentioned it in one of my Leoric fights. There is a Leoric fight on the Twitch stream that I did that I really should upload to YouTube. Maybe I'll do that before this comes out. But I was fighting Leoric with a wizard, right? I put the game on master level finally. Once I imported all my characters, I could unlock master, because you need a level 60 to unlock master. Not sure how I feel about that. We'll get into that a little bit. But once I did that, I made a wizard from scratch, put it on master. And the experience gain I got was amazing. I got to level, I think, 20 or something like that. 24, I don't know. I basically had my entire skill bar filled out to fight Leoric. I had all sorts of abilities. It was kind of fun. And the fight, though, was easy. Incredibly easy. I had no risk of dying. Why? Well, because I had already hit level 20, my Templar was level 20. And my Templar at level 20 gains a whole bunch of healing skills. Heal, Loyalty, Guardian. And I think I had Heal and Loyalty, but instead of Guardian, I think I had Inspire for the to give me the resources that I wanted to fight. And Leoric could not hurt me hard enough. His only ability that would do any semblance of damage was his Whirlwind ability. And after he did it, the Templar's 30-second heal would come up, and he would just heal me up to full. So I had no danger in that fight. You know, it was... I'm thinking that the followers are a little overtuned right now. Not maybe in damage. I mean, their damage certainly could be high, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Having high damage followers is just like having a high damage party member. But maybe the healing on the Templar is a little too much. And part of that, and part of why I'm here in Act 4, again, kind of going back to that, is right now my Barbarian has no real healing on him. I have, let's just take a look, I have 1,787 life per second. 1,000 of that is coming from the Templar, so he's effectively doubling my life per second, more than double, obviously. But as you can see, my Barbarian, since I haven't really played him much, especially not on the PTR, I mean, this is kind of the first I've really started playing him on the PTR. I've been leveling new characters because I found that fun. But you can see that my damage isn't really high. A lot of people usually have a lot more damage, especially coming from live. A lot of people were going for their trifectas and things like that. I went for kind of a survivability thing. But even then, my toughness is about 300,000. We look at my resistances, you can see I'm sitting around 300 to 400 maybe. They're okay, they're not great. Not as good as many people out there already that are pushing the boundaries of Act 10. Or not Act 10, but Monster Power 10. I very much could not do Monster Power 10. I could maybe do Monster Power 5 or 6, and then Monster Power 10 was just, the monsters took too long to kill. It was just not worth it. Lots of stuns going on there. So, the point here is that I really am not using any healing abilities. In fact, I changed my build where I was using Rend, and Rend was giving health back. And my Merciless Assault. I'm using a build based around making the enemies come to me and doing more damage the closer I am to the enemies right now. Just kind of testing it out. And I'm not even using any defensive abilities, as you can see. I don't have Ignore Pain. I don't have any of the shouts that give you health back. About the only ability I have that gives me healing right now is Seismic Slam, because they gave it a new rune that gives it 1% maximum life for every enemy hit. I figured that would be a good thing to have just in case. It's not great against single target enemies, so single target enemies that are tough are still killing me. But I kind of want you to pay attention as I play and kind of notice the threat level I'm in. I am playing in Master difficulty. I am playing in the highest difficulty available to me in the game in the PTR. And this is by no means no Monster Power 10. And this has been a point of contention for a lot of people, is the difficulty. And people saying that Master is too easy, Master's too easy. Well, I know that with my current stats, I should not survive this. But look at how my health goes up, and if my health drops too far... Holy mackerel! Okay. Sorry, distracted by the shiny. Oh my goodness. That would be thanks to... Oh my goodness. That would be thanks to these new shoulders I found, which are awesome. 25% chance to explode in a fan of knives. And it does 200% weapon damage when it does. I'm going to intentionally take damage to let that happen. That is funny. Okay. And I died there. Yeah, because I intentionally took damage. But you'll notice that my health regen is exceptionally high because of the Templar. Now, if the Templar does die, then... I lose that, yeah, that sure, and that makes sense, and that's great. But then you really start to notice how weak I really am. My character is not strong. I know he's not strong. I never went into the auction house and bought gear. I was a self-made man. And I never expected to be into the top end of damage, of monster power, anything like that. So, the fact that I can survive this, the highest difficulty available in the game right now, just kind of baffles me, to be honest. Certainly I might need Seismic Slam every now and then, as you can see there, gave me a decent amount of health. But the Templar is healing me for most of most of the damage I'm taking. Big monsters, now big elites, with certain affixes will still go through it. I mean, you've already seen me die a couple times. But again, I'm not playing defensively at all. I'm going pure offense. My Seismic Slam is the only defensive skill I have, and I'm not even playing super smart because I'm just kind of running around, at times taking damage intentionally. And of course, I am commentating this podcast, which of course takes away a little bit of my concentration, so I'm not really paying full attention to the game as I should be. So I'm thinking that follower healing... down to my bare fist, that's funny. I'm thinking that follower healing is just maybe too strong right now. Again, right now, that's mostly the Templar. I've really only focused on the Templar. In fact, I don't even think the other two have anything that would heal you. So, there you go. We're pretty much talking about the Templar. Enabling me to go this far. Now, if I were a person that had better gear, that had some of the gear that some people that are doing Monster Power 10 right now, then I have a feeling that this would be a joke. If I were building defensive right now, let's say I went back to a defensive build, like, because I had a defensive build on my Barbarian that I used for playing in higher level monster powers with friends because I didn't have the damage output anyway, so I just went ahead and made a defensive build so I could survive and do a tiny bit of damage, help them out. And I could survive a lot of things. I could survive a decent amount of hits and things like that. If I went back to a defensive build, might be okay. Might be. But I would have to work at it, you know. I would really, like right now, I'm already having to kind of run around, dodge, and avoid because of this guy. He's a single target creature. That's kind of my weakness right now. A lot of my abilities and even my healing ability is based around hitting a lot of enemies at once. Even my damage is based on that because I've got the Battle Rage that gives me more crit when I'm around more enemies. So, yeah, this is my weakness. This is my kryptonite. And I'm not surviving the big hits. So obviously, I really don't think I should be here in this difficulty as my Barbarian, but I'm still able to do it. Now, leveling up, I didn't mind that. Like on the Wizard, going through the Wizard, going through Master difficulty, playing that, you know, that's fun. That's kind of fine. And the beginning is already geared to make the enemies weaker because you're weaker. You know, monsters only have one magical effects. They're a little, I wouldn't say dumber because I couldn't really say that. I don't think lower levels affect the AI per se. I'm not entirely sure on that. So going through Master on a low level, you know, okay, that's fine, honestly. That's fine with me because it even gives you experience boost. That's kind of, you think that's almost kind of what it's for. Now, if Torment is doable, I would expect that you'd probably want to be crafting gear all the time for that mode. But I just, when I was playing on Master with the Wizard, I crafted a thing every now and then, but for the most part, the drops were doing it. And you find enough gear, as it were. I think I'm going to just get away from this guy. We'll continue the commentary away from this hammer guy, because he's kind of annoying, and I don't think that's entertaining. But I'm kind of in agreement with a lot of the people that have been saying Master's too easy, because I take a look at this, and someone like me being here, it just, I don't know. It does seem like there should be more here. There should be more to it. And the other thing that's kind of annoying is the fact that you have to unlock it. You have to unlock it with the level 60. So when I first installed the PTR, did not have my characters copied over, I couldn't do Master. I had to do Expert. An Expert really, that one definitely wasn't a challenge. I mean, I was, on my Monk, I had a couple hard times in the beginning when I did Expert because I just didn't have any skills. But once I started getting skills, it just got easier, and I was able to deal with a lot of threats that were thrown my way. But it was kind of annoying that I couldn't get that maximum amount of experience gain without having a 60 unlocked. So you can't really get the full experience unless you've already got something unlocked. So I'm not sure I agree with that. And that goes right into Torment. Torment can't be unlocked unless you have a 70. That means Torment is available only through Reaper of Souls. And I don't think I agree with that. And the problem with that is that it restricts the highest level of difficulty away from players unless they buy an expansion. And there has been a lot of debate on this, and some people think that's, you know, some people agree, some people disagree, which is good. It's good to have, you know, different points of view, but I mean, here's the way I look at it. We're looking at increasing difficulty, like something to make the game more interesting for players. Now, yes, there are certain things tied to Torment difficulty that should not be available to non-Reaper players. All right, we're talking about different types of gems unlocking, different types of, I believe, legendary patterns and things like that unlocking. So we are talking about things that only Reaper provides. Let me go ahead and use a potion. That you don't want players not to have, but you can do that, right? You can lock it out. If a player's not flagged for the account, that stuff won't be active anyway. But the thing you're taking away from players that don't have the expansion is people that have gear that want to have want to play the game still, but may not want the expansion pack. You're kind of taking away that experience from them, keeping them from making the game harder. You know, keeping them from playing the game in the way they want to play it. And that has been one of Blizzard's primary philosophies. Play the game the way you want to play it. Do you want to play it defensively? Do you want to play it offensively? Do you want to have a bunch of difficulty? That's what the monster power system is all about. Players can adjust the difficulty of the game at their whim. I can make the game easy if I want to. I can go Inferno, Monster Power 0. I can still get the same high-level items. I can't get them. Let's just say Monster Power 1, right? Because Monster Power 1 really isn't that bad. If you can clear Act 4, Monster Power 0, then you can pretty much do Monster Power 1. Alright? So, if I want to make it super easy just so that I can find all the really good stuff without really having to think about it, great, I should be able to. You know, if I don't want a challenge, then don't make me have to suffer through it if I don't want to. I mean, allow me to deal with that in my own way. And I'm probably going to die to Neckarat, just so everybody knows. I don't know if I'm equipped to kill him. So this kind of goes back full circle too, though, to the follower thing, right? So is the follower too strong, or is he pretty much designed, is the Templar designed to make it so that someone that doesn't want to build defenses can? I don't know. I'm just going to say that if with a wizard at level 20 going against King Leoric, not taking any damage, that's too strong. Here at level 60, it's definitely a different story. I am kind of able to deal with damage that I shouldn't be able to deal with. I mean, you can see my health is kind of bobbing up and down. If I take too much damage, I can run away. And then the Templar just kind of heals me. He's like a second potion. So here at 60, it may not be as bad, but I think it might still need some tuning. I definitely think the leveling experience needs some looking at. I think the difficulty needs some looking at, especially if players that play vanilla Diablo 3 are not going to have access to the highest level of difficulty. I just don't think that should be something restricted by an expansion. I don't know how you would do that, because the thing is I don't exactly agree with unlocking difficulty by level either. You know, unlocking Master, or Expert, or no, Master, sorry. Unlocking Master through having a level 60, right? I'm not sure how I feel about that. It kind of makes sense for people that people are new. Maybe you don't want to have them deal with something super hard, but that should be their choice, shouldn't it? I mean, shouldn't that player legitimately have the choice that, you know, okay, I'm going to try Master? I mean, they can always lower the difficulty, so why bother unlocking it? That seems weird to me. Now, when it came to Diablo 3's basic mode, and even Diablo 2, we're talking about unlocking the game, and you were unlocking difficulties, normal, nightmare, hell. You know, you were unlocking those as you went. But the difference here is, when you were unlocking those, it was for a reason, because they were level restricted. You could not fight the monsters in the higher levels because they were just literally that high level. So what you were actually doing was unlocking progression. You were unlocking the ability to fight monsters higher level than you, and so you had to beat it because was the way you progressed. You know, you only had 4 acts, so you had to go through those 4 acts again and again. Now you don't have to do that. They've taken away the whole I have to go through the game 3 to 4 times again. I don't have to do that. I can just go through the game once. So why is my difficulty being restricted now as if I had to play the game multiple times? Why can't I just go right to the highest difficulty if I want to? Because monsters scale. That's the whole point. Monster scaling being added to the game feels like the difficulty being locked is now arbitrary. It feels like there's no reason for it anymore. The whole point of it is gone. So I guess I'd have to say I'm in agreement with those that think that the difficulty should be available in vanilla. And there are some people that ask why. Why should that be a thing? If people don't want to buy the expansion, why should they be given stuff? Well, you can't alienate people that have already paid for the game. A lot of people already put down their money for this game. I mean, I bought my collector's edition. What if I didn't want to buy Reapers? I put down good money for this game. I still should be able to play the game how I want to play it. I'm going to miss out on a lot of stuff if I don't buy Reaper of Souls. I'm already missing out on a lot if I don't buy it. So why should difficulty be one of those things I'm missing out on? That is not something I can agree to. If I want to make the game hard, I should be able to make the game hard. Just take out the stuff that makes it Reaper of Souls exclusive. That would be my preference. Especially when it comes to leveling. I really would just like to be able to adjust my leveling and being able to control that with low-level characters. Because I've had a lot of fun. Like, every time they release something into Diablo 3 that affects the way you level, I go back and I create new characters. I actually enjoy creating new characters and leveling more than I like grinding at the end. You know, a lot of people say, oh, there's no in-game. Well, now there is. Reaper will have it. So we don't need bounties, we don't need adventure, we don't need that in vanilla. But difficulty is something you really shouldn't take away from people, especially people that have been playing the game for so long and have such good gear. Master is not cutting it. Master is not something that's going to satisfy those people that have all that gear that have been playing. And if Blizzard wants people to keep playing it, they're going to want to let them have that. They're going to want to let them have that option. Alright. So we've talked about difficulty. Let's move on to another subject, because we're basically at a point where I'm going to fight Izual, and I'm pretty certain that I'm not going to be able to deal with him. Oh, and I can't. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and die to him, and we'll move on. Let's move on to the next subject. Something that I both love and dislike about what they're doing with 201 and doing with Reaper. Let's talk about smart drops. Let's talk about loot in general, loot 2.0. I like loot 2.0 for the most part. I like the fact that items will drop a little less frequently, but they'll be a bit better for you. I do like that. And it has been so much easier to find upgrades. In fact, I already found an upgraded pair of pants for this barbarian. They didn't have resist all on them like I'm used to, but again, the difficulty has been as such that I don't really need resist all anymore. I just need to watch what I'm doing and, of course, use any healing abilities I have at the time. They've done a really great job with managing the spike of damage. Like, I feel like a lot of the spikes of damage that I take are mostly my fault when they happen. You know, it's fine. So they've done a good job there. Like there, for example. Maybe he's not going to be. Okay, bosses are not going to be a big deal, apparently. I mean, okay, I'm just going to stop attacking. I want to... This will show up in the difficulty thing. That right there. See, now, the elites are a problem. They do a ton of damage, but the bosses, not really. And I'm disappointed by that. I'm really disappointed by that, because these bosses are supposed to be epic encounters. Now, if I go to fight Diablo, this isn't going to be a big deal. Why? Because Diablo takes my follower away from me. Well, moving on to loot 2.0 like I meant to. I do like the whole idea of it. I like the idea of less drops. But something just recently came out. I believe yesterday. This recording happening... what is today? This recording happening on the 11th of January. So I think it was just yesterday that they announced that they are going to make it so vendored items cannot be salvaged anymore. This is important because if you watched my What to Farm video, which quite honestly I'm going to apologize about that one again, that was kind of a rough video put together. It was not meant to be a big thing. And I did not expect that to go to the front page of Diablo fans, by the way. I love Diablo fans. I'm so glad that then they link me. It's a great honor when that happens. I'm just really surprised that was the one they picked. But there is still some decent information in there. And I talked a little bit about the white items and how I wasn't sure quite yet if you wanted to farm up some white items, but honestly, I think at this point you might want to. Because without the ability to salvage vendored items anymore, you're not going to have a very quick access to white items and debris. Now, when I was salvaging white items, I was getting maybe 3 to 8, I think, maybe somewhere around that range of common debris every time I salvaged a white item. White items were certainly not common. They were fairly rare. I mean, I'm very surprised that white items are rarer than blues. You know, it used to be white items gave you kind of a general idea of how rare something else was. You know, blues felt special because you saw a lot of white items. And I understand that they want you to drop less items and make them better, but they've kind of gone the other way where, okay, blues are the new white, and whites are just weird. They're in a very weird spot right now. They drop less frequently than blues, probably less frequent than yellows at this point. Now, I think they're supposed to be more frequent than yellows, but still, that is a weird position to put a common item at. The name common doesn't even make sense anymore for what they've done to it. But when I did that video, I didn't really mention being able to salvage from a vendor, because a lot of high-end vendors don't have whites anymore. But some people said, you know, you just make a level 1 character, buy stuff from the vendor, salvage the whites. Yeah, well, you can't do that anymore. They've taken that away. I don't think it's in the current beta. I don't think it's in the current Reaper of Souls. But it is something that they have already announced that they're going to do. Now, again, let's talk about this being a beta. And we have about 2 to 2.5 months before the game comes out. So there's still plenty of time for changes to happen. And they have said every time they adjust item drop rates, they are looking at adjusting crafting material costs. So it could very well be that common debris may go down in cost. You may not need as many. Because the problem I have right now, especially coming from playing vanilla, is I have a ton of special materials, but nowhere near enough common debris. I need lots of it. That's the thing I need to farm. Now the good news is some people have come up with really great farming areas to be able to come up with some common debris should I need it. And I could definitely do that. But it's one of those things where I'm just not sure. Maybe they did too much at once. You know, when they did the smart drops, they really solved the problem of there being too many whites on the ground and people were kind of tired of seeing it. People were asking for whites to be more important, so they're like, okay, let's do that too. The problem is you've added both of those systems at the same time. Maybe that's too much. Maybe one or the other would have been enough. But now that we've got both, and it's assuming they're not going to get rid of both, then they just need to find the right drop rate and find the right cost ratio. All right. So I'm hoping that they do that, and there's still enough time for that to happen. But it is in one of those one of those scary times where we are so close to release, and the thing to keep in mind though is even with Diablo 3 Vanilla, lots of changes did start happening even near the end. Because the game can be patched very frequently, they can adjust things all the way up to release and even after. So even if something turns out to be wrong at release, they could fix it. So we'll have to keep that in mind. It's not all hopeless, and even the difficulty thing is not all hopeless. They're still monitoring it. But I definitely want to express my concerns because these are the things that I think I want them to look at, and hopefully they come across this and they see these things that, you know, hey, here are the problems I see with the game. So Loot 2.0 and the white thing is a little touchy, again, in a weird spot, and I want to get that reevaluated. But I have another problem with Loot 2.0 at this point. I think the smart drop system is too smart. I very rarely find items that I cannot use. Almost everything I find is geared towards my class. It may have strength, it may have vital, something like that. And if not, it might be fairly neutral. So what I noticed, and you might think, oh, well, that's good, right? Well, no, because there's two problems with this. Let's talk about my low-level character. Let's talk about my wizard again. On my wizard, I've been using a Templar follower, and I've been intentionally shutting off his healing because of the reasons we discussed earlier. I think maybe I keep one healing item instead of two, because two feels way too strong, one feels kind of about right. I want to upgrade my Templar, But all the items I find are usable by Wizard, and only every now and then do I find something else. Like I have found a Crusader shield, which I'm going to admit is a little weird since I don't have Reaper of Souls. They should be able to flag items so they don't drop on non-Reaper of Souls accounts. I believe Diablo 2 did that. If you had a non-Lord of Destruction account, then you never saw runes, you never saw any of that stuff drop. Any of the new items didn't drop. So I'm a little confused by the fact that the Crusader shield dropped. Not a big deal, I just ended up salvaging it anyway. And I have seen, I think, items for one or two other classes, but for the most part it was all Wizard stuff. Smart drops, when it was announced, they talked about it sounded like it was going to be one of those things that happened on occasion, not a lot. You know, it was going to be one of those bonuses, like, okay, you know, you might not find, you know, in case you're not finding items that you need, smart drops will come in, and every now and then you'll get something good for you. But it really feels like I'm getting smart drops a lot. Like, a lot. I mean, I don't know if they are smart drops or not, but let's just say that the items are so useful for me that it just feels like I can do no wrong with these items. I mean, they may not be as strong as what I have, but they are items that could have been useful for my character, for my class. I could not gear up my Templar. I was not finding weapons for him. I was not finding rings for him. Eventually, I found a neutral axe, I believe, and put it on him. But nothing with strength is dropping. I mean, I cannot find anything for my Templar. I want to gear him up. I want to make him powerful. How can I do that if I'm not finding the items? Now here's the other side of that coin. I'm just talking about a follower right now. Let's talk about alt characters. How can I find items for my Demon Hunter? How can I find items for my Wizard or you know, a Monk? How do I find items for those classes if what I'm getting are mostly smart drops? I really can't. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to leave this game. I'll go ahead and go to my Wizard. Just kind of show what I have on him. Now, the smart drops were said at some point to take into consideration what your follower was. I don't see that happening. Because if that were true, then having the Templar with me means I should be finding some strength gear every now and then. And the crafting in the game is all smart, right? Everything that you craft is smart. So there's another downside. If I try to craft something from Hadrig with the intent of giving it to the Templar, then what I'm going to get is typically something that's not going to be very useful for the Templar. So here I've got this wonderful Master Spine. Thankfully Vitality dropped on it and it had some damage on it. So that's what I ended up using to him. But followers benefit a ton from their primary stat. They get a 2.5% or a 2.5 bonus. Alright? They kind of need that if you want them to do any kind of decent damage. Well, let's go to Hadrig. I mean, we'll kind of take a look at it. We'll forge a weapon. I'll just go to all. Like, try and find something that I can't use that he can use. Alright, so let's say... You know, I'm half tempted to make a flail, just so I could see what stats are on it. Assuming that he couldn't use it. So that had strength on it. But it's a Crusader item. I mean, it's a class-specific item, so it is designed to do that. But what about a neutral item? Let's say this Grandmaster Bludgeon, alright? 32 level item. It's around my level. I'm 34. I want to make it for my Templar here. Well, unfortunately, it's more neutral than anything, but that's still fine. I like the fact that at least I can get neutral items. But the problem is... I'm just going to craft a bunch of these because this is the PTR. I can always get my materials back. But let's just look at these. Attack speed, lightning damage, holy damage and cooldown. I mean, these are very neutral. There's some vitality on that. So these are designed to be neutral. But I'm not getting the stats I want because of that. So let's say a sword. I'm just going to craft a sword. A sword I can't even use. Damage and vitality. Again, very, very neutral. But you look at the legendary that dropped, and it definitely had int on it. Which is good, because I like that legendary, and it's helping me a lot. But here, I cannot level up, or not level up, but I can't gear out my follower as much as I want. Even the shield he's using right now has intelligence on it. Because if shields just aren't dropping, sources are dropping. So let's go to Forge Armor. Let's see what happens. Can I make a shield with strength on it? Let's just go down here at shield. Let's just create something of my level, shall we? 29. Let's just create something of my level. Vital. Okay, that's great. That's a great neutral skill, but I want some strength. Int. So I can't really get what I want. The only way I can really get strength gear right now is to go on my barbarian and start making some of these items. Then I could trade it over to my wizard, but the downfall to that is I have to have those characters. Now the good news is I can always make a level 1 barbarian. Let's assume I didn't have one. I could always go to a level 1 barbarian and craft a high level item. I mean, you can see that now. I can go in here and I can craft an Exalted Dread Shield. I can make a high level item with my wizard even with if I were level 1, because the blacksmith goes across the accounts. That's good. But I don't really want to have to go to a different character to make gear for a follower for another character, because it feels weird. The randomness in Diablo is something that a lot of people really like, and reducing that randomness is not a bad idea, because sometimes random is too random. Sometimes you will go huge spurts through the game without finding things that you want, or you might just get screwed by monster affixes or something like that. Alright, that's part of what makes the game interesting. That's why people play roguelikes. They want that randomness and that element that every time they play it's a little bit different. Taking away a little bit of that randomness to make it more interesting and fun, and to make sure that you don't get screwed by RNG, that's not bad. I actually agree with that. But I think there's a point where you go too far. And I honestly think at this point, in this stage of the beta, they've gone too far. There either needs to be a way for me to toggle on and off smart drops, or to say, you know, even if I had a switch that said craft for me, craft for my follower, like put it up here. Do I want to craft for my character? Do I want to craft for my follower? Cool. You know, the blacksmith, make him so that he's not super random. Just allow me to choose which one I want to do for, me or my follower. And then just increase the randomness of the loot in the field so that I can find random items. Like part of Diablo 2 that I played that game a ton of, and the reason why I made a whole bunch of new characters in that game was because I would find set pieces or uniques that were good for characters I hadn't even made yet. And I would say, huh, this is pretty cool. Maybe I should make that character and try it and use this item, because that would be fun. And it was. I made all sorts of characters I wouldn't have even touched before because I found an item for them. And the randomness on that is just lacking right now. Like, I have no reason, like if I never wanted to play a demon hunter, I'd have no reason to go make one, you know, and I'm not, if I don't find items for the demon hunter, why would I ever stop and say, maybe I should give him a shot? You know, I've never touched him, I never thought about touching him, but I've got this really cool demon hunter item, maybe I should give him a try. The chances of that happening are so low right now. So I really think that needs to be looked at. These are the things that I'm seeing in the beta. And again, keep in mind this is not from Reaper of Souls. I don't believe there's a huge discrepancy between the two when it comes to the Loot 2.0 and the drops. I can't speak of how Torment is, but I can definitely say that I feel that Master could use some adjusting. I also think that the followers, the Templar specifically, need some adjusting. I think that maybe the heal is a bit too strong. He heals, for this character, about half of his life every 30 seconds with both his loyalty and his heal. So that means every 30 seconds he can heal me up to full quite easily with those two. And that's not including having Guardian, which is another 50%. So my life bar is constantly moving up. The only thing I really have to worry about is elites with certain affixes and do tons of damage. So we're looking at things like Desecration, you know, Arcane Beams. Normal monsters typically don't do it. They don't normally pose any threat. And bosses just don't have that epic feeling anymore just because of how strong he is. Maybe the bosses need to be improved. I beat the Butcher with this character. My damage is not that high. I have 932, right? I've beat him. He went well past his enrage. I mean, fire was everywhere. And I was just getting healed by the Templar. And when I needed to, I popped a potion. And I honestly, the 2 heal potions at the corners of the screen that when you're fighting the Butcher, those 2 healing shrines, I used one of them. I know they're designed for you to go back and forth when you need them to help you fight the Butcher because of how strong he's supposed to be, but he's not anymore. He's a pushover. I beat him at level 34 and didn't have really much of a problem. It took me a while because my damage output wasn't really all that high, but and my damage was about half of what it is now because he gave me this legendary, so my damage was lower than this then when I beat him. And the healing that the Templar gave me, my first time through, shouldn't be that. I just don't think it should be that high. So these, at very least, these should be brought down through the leveling experience. Alright, so I know this was kind of a little around the place. Again, I'm in the game live right now. I mean, see, look, woohoo, moving the mouse. Yeah, great, woohoo. Playing live this time instead of recording over time. And what I would usually do is kind of cut things together and try and make everything flow logically. So I know things kind of went a little back and forth today as I talked about some of these examples. But I really wanted to kind of put out my impressions here about the PTR. Even though I've expressed a lot of concerns, I would like to say that overall I have really been enjoying myself on the PTR. It's been so much fun to play new characters because the skills have changed so much. In fact, when the game comes out, I'm not even sure if I want to touch my 60, my Barbarian. Because I kind of want to play through him again because his skills have changed. I want to see how different they are as I level up, try them all out. I could certainly do that with him at 60, but it's always more interesting to go through when you're restricted and you don't have as many skills just to see what they do and how they work together. Not only that, but because you have the drop rates, like you're almost guaranteed a legendary when you beat a boss, an end act boss. Like Leoric won't do it. You know, things like him, the sub bosses won't do it usually. But the end act bosses do, so it would be kind of fun to go through finding legendaries for my character to play with as he progresses. So I kind of think that when the game comes out, when Reaper comes out, I might just scrap my characters. I might keep them, you know, just keep anything that's 60 and just let him linger, maybe touch him later. But I almost want to just start over to try it, just to experience this Loot 2.0 system. I think it would be a lot of fun, and that's where I have a lot of my fun, is just going through new types of characters and experimenting. So overall, yes, I have enjoyed the PTR. The little bit I played of the 60 was what you saw on the Barbarian there, and I actually kind of had a bit of fun with him. If you want to see, since we're winding down here, I will go ahead and show you the build I was using. It was a very close range build. Again, I think it's a build that really only works on Master if you are using the Templar. Because obviously I am not built for this mode. I'll show off the abilities. So for anyone that's interested in looking at this kind of a build, I'm probably going to tweak it as I go. I made it just before playing the game. But it's a build about pulling things into you. I've got Cleave with Broad Sweep to do the highest amount of damage. That rune just increases the damage. Seismic Slam I picked up for a little bit of healing, 1% for every enemy I hit, and you usually can hit quite a bit of enemies in a row, and since you can use that frequently, I thought that was a pretty good idea. I picked up Harpoon with the rune that makes the enemies get pulled back to me. Furious Charge, instead of using Merciless Assault, I decided to try Dreadnought because it basically pushes enemies with me, so if I can't pull them in, I can at least push them together. Battle Rage into the Fray gives you crit for while enemies are close together, and Cave In on Earthquake pulls enemies together as well. Going off of that, I have, to get a bit more damage, Ruthless. 40% more damage to enemies below 30. Brawler. As long as 3 enemies are in range, my damage increased by 20%. And of course, since I'm using Earthquake, I got Boon of Bull Kathos. I intentionally did not pick up any defensive abilities. So when you were watching what was happening earlier with my health and when I was dying, and you may have been thinking you're talking about the Templar being overpowered on healing, but you're actually still dying a lot, the whole point of that is because I didn't have any defensive abilities. And I died because I was not playing 100%. If I would have picked up defensive abilities, I'm pretty sure I could have gone without dying. So there is that. So I would really like Blizzard to consider that. Take a look at that. But lots of fun. I really wish I had a beta key because I look at some of the things they've added. I would really love to try adventure mode, bounties. The Nephalem Rifts sound really cool. I really think that the game is going to be good when it comes out. I really do. I know there's a lot of people kind of on the fence about it, but here's the thing, and here's what I noticed when it came to Vanilla D3. I was interested in the game as I was watching footage, and eventually started to realize I didn't care as much at times. And when I ultimately got my beta invite, I kind of thought to myself, that's kind of cool. I'm not sure if I'm going to really play it that much because I've been watching so many videos. And I think that's kind of what's happening right now. A lot of people are seeing the game and they're watching so much of the game that they think they're not going to care for the game when it comes out. But I'm going to tell you, when the invite came for me for the vanilla version of Diablo 3, I thought the same thing. And then I started playing the game. And Diablo has that addictive quality, and the combat system is just so well put together. The loot was the biggest problem. That once I started playing the game, I realized, oh, I like this game. This is fun. And I think the same is going to be with the Reaper. I think a lot of people are going to notice that as well. They may not think, or you may not think, that the game has a lot of changes, but the truth of the matter is once you actually see them in motion, once you actually try them and you experience them, you go out, you do your first bounty, you do your runs, and you notice how random the generation of the rifts are now and how Act 5 is a lot more atmospheric, you might end up enjoying it. I'm not saying you absolutely will, but I just think that people are giving a little less credit to actually being in the game compared to watching someone play it. It can be fun to watch people play, but there's something about a game that sometimes it's just better to be in it, to be immersed in it. And I think Diablo 3 is going in a very good direction right now. They just need to be careful that they don't over-tune things in the wrong way. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for watching and for putting up with a little bit of the rambling because this was done live. And I will see you on the next one.